Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of education is to make good human beings with skill and expertise. Enlightened human beings can be created by teachers. Evolution in the education structure can be a breakthrough for any country to flourish students, professionals, and better human beings. On this note, I, Sejal Jain, student of Hyper MBA 24th batch, proudly welcome the Board of Directors, Chaitanya Shiksha Smriti, parent body of Hyper. Dr. Amarjit Singh Khalsa Sir, Group Director, Hyper Group of Institution. Dr. Vaibhav Lavlekar Sir, Chairman, MBA Program. Dr. Harsh Sharma Sir, Chairman, Hyper Career Center. Dr. Mahesh Soni Sir, Mentor, Hyper UG. All the faculty members and my dear colleagues. This seminar is about implementation of NEP 2020. Teach to transform, educate to empower, and learn to lead. Said by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, in line with his vision to make India a global knowledgeable superpower. National Education Policy 2020 was drafted by the committee led by former ISRO chairman K. Kasturi Ranjan. The committee submitted its draft of NEP in May 2019 to Human Resource Development Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank. Today, we are gathered on this digital platform to not only understand the nuance, but also how the implementation can and should be done for effective results. Now, I would like to call Akanksha Wankhede on the e-dais. She'll be speaking about introduction and school education.
Thank you so much, Sejal. Good afternoon, respected Group Director, sir, respected mentors, faculties, and dear colleagues. Today, I, Akanksha Wankhede, would love to make use of this e-platform to present before you an e-seminar on National Education Policy 2020. I would like to begin by firstly addressing the matter of what education is and what is its importance. Education is a systematic mode via which students are instructed and imparted knowledge in their lives through schools, colleges, and other institutional organizations. Moreover, this does not pertain yet here. Education, we educate ourselves in every stage since we are born till we live. We get to live our lives. It is a fundamental for human potential. From this, we learn how universal access to equality education is a key to economic growth, social justice, and equality. It is estimated that India is said to have the highest young people in the world over next decade, and how this will take us forward with an opportunity of developing the rich talent for the betterment of our country. India adopted Goal 4 of Sustainable Development Goal 2030 Agenda in 2015 for inclusive and equitable education globally. To achieve this, our education system requires to be reshaped. In today's world, when everything is evolving, a skilled workforce will be progressively in greater demand. And this landscape of employment getting evolved quickly, it has become essential that children not only learn, but they learn how to learn. Method and practice of teaching, which is known as pedagogy, has to be developed to make education more holistic. The new curriculum demands all aspects and capabilities of learners with major reform to get highest quality of education into the system. India aims to have such an education system by 2040. Now, let us talk about most awaited National Education Policy 2020. Now, coming to our new approach towards the development, National Education Policy 2020 is the first educational policy which aims to address these imperatives that we discussed in our country. It emphasizes on developing creative potential of each individual. It proposes revision and reconstruction of all aspects in the system. It is based on the principle that one's capacity of a brain to retain any particular information must be developed with mixing up them with social, emotional, and ethical capabilities. This also focuses on nurturing of our ancient aspect, which needs to be preserved, researched, and enhanced. It puts teachers as the core of this fundamental reform in reshaping the coming generations. It focuses on emphasizing and developing the underrepresented and marginalized section of the children, keeping in mind both local and global requirements of the country. If we talk about the history of this policy, the unfinished agenda of the National Policy of Education was initiated in 1986 and then modified in 1992. It developed a right of children to free and compulsory education Act 2009 for achieving elementary education. This policy also mentions few guidelines through various principles like recognizing and identifying each individual's capabilities, flexibilities, no hard separations, emphasis on conceptual understanding, promoting multilingualism, and etc. The vision of this policy has been very vivid, which is to ingrain deep rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thoughts but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds to develop knowledge and skills. Now, let's move forward to the first part of our policy, which talks about school education. School education contemplates that education structure of school, which is 10 plus 2 currently, will be restructured into 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, covering children's age between 3 to 18, where early childhood care of education, which is ECCE, from age 3 is included, which was not the same earlier. This is aimed at promoting better learning and development. Restructuring school curriculum and pedagogy in new 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 designed by replacing the previous 10 plus 2. It has further been classified into 4 major categories of the age brackets. First is from age 3 to 8 years old, into which 5 years will be further categorized into two major categories. First, Anganwadis and preschool for 3 years and primary school for 2 years, which is for first and second grade. Second category is 8 to 11 years old, which will be from third to fifth grade, which will be preparatory schooling. Third will be from age 11 to 14 for grade 6 to 8, which will be middle stage schooling. And the last will be from 14 to 18 years old, which will be 9th to 12th grades, which will be secondary schooling. The above described stages are purely curricular and pedagogical, designed to optimize learning for students based on cognitive development of children. They will inform the development of national and state curricular teaching learning strategies at each stage. But parallel changes to physical infrastructure will not be required. Now, moving forward, this has been conceptualized behind the fact that over 85% of a child's brain development occurs before 6, highlighting the importance of acknowledging this age group. Currently, ECCE does not include children from socio-economically disadvantaged backgrounds, but the new policy will focus on these sections as well to put their potential into flourishing their future and career. In this policy, NCERT will develop national curricular and pedagogical framework for children up to age 8 years, which will be divided into 2 parts. First part will be sub-framework for 0 to 3 years, and second will be sub-framework for 3 to 8 years old. And the both categories will be aligned with the guidelines within the policy. ECCE will be delivered through a strengthened system of early childhood education institution consisting Anganwadi and preschool. Midday meals program is also proposed to be extended to the preparatory classes in primary schools, along with this regular health checkup will also be done. In accordance with this agenda, workers and teachers will also be trained where their qualification will be 10 plus 2. ECCE will also introduce ashram shalas in tribal dominated areas. The guidelines and implementation will work on the same as we discussed. It focuses on the necessity of basic operations with numbers and how it is an indispensable part of schooling, which also goes a long way. Today, there are over 5 crore government and non-government schools, which has numeracy learning crisis, and thus attaining the development in this section requires urgent attention. High quality resources are found on literacy and numeracy has planned to make available to children through digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing, which is Diksha. This technological intervention will also be an aid to the teachers to bridge the gap between communication and language. The policy aims to address the current challenge of minimizing the dropout rates from school while envisioning to equip every child for future opportunities and challenges. Let us first understand the reason behind these dropouts. Every child in India does not have an access to a stimulative and conducive home environment. This is the first major reason for the dropout. The second major reason is millions of children do not have access to quality preschool. Third and the last reason is learning and education usually doesn't walk parallel in children's school life. Focusing and working on these three issues is the mission of Foundation Literacy and Numeracy. Two major initiatives will be undertaken to solve these three issues. The first will be to provide effective and sufficient infrastructure to have safe and engaging school education. Second will be to achieve universal participation in school by tracking students. The desired implementation of the policy will be made sure by the measures like holistic development of learners, reducing curriculum content to enhance essential learning and critical thinking, experiential learning, empowering students through flexibility in course of choice, multilingualism and power of language, curricular integration of essential subjects, skills, and capacities, introduction of national textbook with local content and flavor, supporting gifted students or students with special talents, and lastly, recruiting and deploying best students to enter into teachership. That's all from my side. Thank you so much. Now, I would again like to invite Sejal to continue.
Thank you so much, Akansha, for your insight. Now we'll have a small quiz, and for that, if you want to answer, either you can raise your hand or type your name in the chat box. Akansha, first question, please. Okay, your first question is, under the chairmanship of whom Committee for Evaluation of New Economic Education Policy submitted its report in May 2016? And your options are guys, please type your name in the chat box or either raise your hand. Pallavi. Yes, Pallavi, please answer. Sir, it is great pleasure to hear it from you.
Late Sri S.R. Subramaniam.
No, that is the wrong answer.
Okay.
The answer is Dr. D. Dr. K. Kasturi Ranjan. And you could have read the answer by Amarjeet sir. Next question, please, Akansha. Please display the options as well. In National Education Policy 2020, the current 10+2 system to be replaced by a new curricular structure that we discussed right now. What is the new structure? Your options are, okay, the correct, guys, please do not write the answers in the chat box. You can write your name if you want to answer. Okay, well, all answered it correct. Thank you. Second slide. According to National Education Policy, by how much percent? Akansha? According to National Education Policy 2020, by how much percent the gross enrollment in higher education to be raised? Your options are yes, that is the correct answer. But guys, it's a request. Please do not write the answer in the chat box. You can type your name for answering. Next question, please. Who among the following is the current director of NCERT? Please type your name in the chat box. Okay, next question, please. Adit, please answer. Please unmute your mic and answer.
There's already an answer over there. A.
How-
Sorry.
But still you can. Okay,
I
next
I
slide,
was
please.
going for A only. Okay.
Okay, great. Where is the headquarters of UN, United Nations? And your options are Paris, London, New York, or Spain. Please do write your name in the chat box.
New York.
Great, great, Simran. Now, I would like to invite Anshul Khare to deal with higher education to the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, Sejal. Good afternoon, respected group director, sir, all mentors, faculty members, and all my dear colleagues. I am grateful and it's a pleasure for me to be a part of this e-seminar on National Education Policy 2020. Today, I am going to tell about the higher education of our country and what are the changes that are be proposed in this new educational policy and that could make a higher impact on the higher education sector of our country. I would like to begin firstly with what is exactly higher education and its significance in India. Okay, what comes in your mind generally when we see higher education? Generally, higher education in our country is seen as a medium of earning a degree after completing school education, with that degree earning a good job. But does that really is higher education, or it is more than that? Yes, higher education is much more than that. Higher education plays an extremely important role in promoting human as well as social well-being and in developing India as it was envisioned in its constitution, a democratic, just, socially conscious, cultured, human nation which will be upholding the liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice for all the people of India. Higher education significantly contributes towards sustainable livelihoods and economic developments of the nation. As India moves towards becoming a knowledge economy and society, more and more young Indians are likely to aspire for higher education. Now, for fulfilling the aspirations, quality higher education is what needed. And this brings me to the point of quality universities and colleges. Please, Akansha, change the slide. Yeah. So quality higher education and from quality universities will be aimed to develop good, thoughtful, well-rounded, and creative individuals. It must enable an individual to study one or more specialized areas of interest at a deep level, and they can also develop character, ethical, and constitutional values. These universities and colleges will provide quality higher education, and this will enable personal accomplishment, enlightenment, constructive public engagement, and productive contribution to the society. It would prepare students for more meaningful and satisfying lives and work roles and enable economic independence. So the quality universities and colleges, according to this policy, will be set up, and they will be providing such higher education programs that will eventually empower the youth of our country and will do the overall development of an individual. Currently, there are some problems which are being faced by the higher education sector in our country. The top three major problems that are currently faced are: number one, there is a very less emphasis on the development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. There is a rigid separation of disciplines with early specialization and streaming of students into narrow areas of study. Lesser emphasis on research at most universities and colleges, and lack of competitive peer-reviewed research funding across the disciplines. So this new education policy will envision the following key changes to these kind of problems which are currently in Indian education sector. So for number one, that Indian higher education sector will be moving towards the multidisciplinary universities and colleges with more higher education institutions across India that offer medium of instruction in local as well as Indian languages, moving towards a more multidisciplinary undergraduate education. This policy also states that higher education will be moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy. A light but tight regulation by a single regulator will be there for higher education. And last but not the least, and very important one of the, that there will be an establishment of a national research foundation. Now, let us see what is proposed for institutional restructuring and consolidation. It has been proposed in the policy that by 2040, all higher education institutions shall aim to become multidisciplinary institutions. Each of will aim to have 3,000 or more students. There shall, by 2030, be at least one large multidisciplinary higher education institute in or near every district. The aim will be to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, from 26.3%. Remind you that higher education, vocational education ratio is 26.3% right now, which is aimed to be increased to 50% by 2035. The definition of this university will allow a spectrum of institutions that range from those that place equal emphasis on teaching and research. So these universities are going to be formulated in research-intensive universities. Institutions will have the option to run open distance learning and online programs. All higher education institutions, all, will be equipped with the basic infrastructure facilities, including like clean drinking water, toilets, clean working toilets, blackboards, offices, teaching supplies, libraries, etc. Every classroom shall have access to the latest educational technology that enables better learning experiences. Faculties will be given the freedom to design their own curricular and pedagogical approaches within the approved framework. There is one present complex nomenclature of higher education institutions in our country, such as deemed universities, affiliating technical universities. These all shall be replaced simply by one term, that is university, on fulfilling the criteria as per norms. Now let's see the approach of the policy towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education. A multidisciplinary education would aim to develop all capacity of human beings: intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and even moral. Even engineering institutions such as IITs will move towards more holistic and multidisciplinary education with more arts and humanities. Students of arts and humanities will aim to learn more science, and all will make an effort to incorporate more vocational subjects and soft skills. Departments of languages, literatures, music, philosophy, art, dance, mathematics, statistics, etc. will be set up and will be established, and they will strengthen all the higher education institutions. Now there comes a major change which will be there in our national education policy, which is that the undergraduate degree will be of either 3 or 4 year duration with multiple exit options within this period with appropriate certifications. For example, a certificate, if a student completes a 1 year course in a discipline, that he will or she will be granted a 1 year completion certificate, or even including vocational education. And if they complete and they leave the 3-year program, then they will be granted a bachelor degree. The 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's program, however, shall be the preferred option. The 4-year program may also lead to a degree with research if the student completes the rigorous research project in their major area of studies, as it is specified by the higher education institutions. Model public universities will be established with the IITs and IIMs, and they will be called as MERUs, which is multidisciplinary education and research universities. HEIs, these higher education institutes, will focus on research and innovation by setting up startup incubation centers, technology development centers, and centers in frontier areas of research. Now let us see what is there for the internationalization of our higher education. Large number of international students who are studying in India, they will have greater mobility for India visit. They can study in our India, they can carry out research at the institutions of India, and vice versa. India will be promoted as a global study destination, providing premium education at affordable cost. An international students office at each higher education institute will be established to coordinate all matters relating to welcoming and supporting the students who will be arriving from abroad. High-performing Indian universities will be encouraged to set up campuses in other countries. Similarly, selected universities, example, among the top 100 universities around the world, will be facilitated to operate in India, and a legislative framework facilitating such entry will be put in place, and such universities will be given special dispensation regarding regulatory, governance, and content norms. Okay, so my other point comes is reimagining the vocational education, in which comes into, yeah, reimagining vocational education will be there. That vocational education will be integrated into all school and higher education institutions in a phased manner over the next decade. By 2025, at least 50% of learners through the school and higher education system will have exposure to vocational education. Higher education institutions will offer vocational education either on their own or in partnership with industries and NGOs. The possibility of offering vocational courses through online distance learning mode will also be explored. The Ministry of Human Resource Development will constitute a national committee for integration of vocational education to oversee this effort. Now, now let me tell you that we have discussed about the students' perspectives. Now, what about the teacher education? Mostly in our country, whenever there is a discussion going on or anything related to higher education sector is being formulated, all the talking is about the possibilities for aspirants of higher quality education. But does these aspirations could be fulfilled without quality teachers? What about those students who wants to become a teacher and teach in these higher education institutes and even at other levels? For those, National Education Policy 2020 has brought a new and revised spectrum, which is, in this NEP, it has been proposed that teacher education will gradually be moved by 2030 into multidisciplinary colleges and universities. By 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be a 4-year integrated B.Ed course. Now let's see the option in these courses. Number 1 is the 4-year integrated B.Ed course. The individual must have to pass class 12th for this. 2-year B.Ed will be available for those students who will do bachelor's degree in other specialized subjects. 1-year B.Ed option will be available to those who does 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree or even master's degree in a specialty and wish to become a subject teacher. For all these things, by 2021, a new and comprehensive national curriculum framework for teacher education, that is NCFTE 2021, will be formulated by NCTE, National Council of Technical Education, in consultation with NCERT. Teacher eligibility test and National Testing Agency test scores in corresponding subjects will be taken into account for the recruitment of these students. An interview will be taken for their recruitments, and knowledge of local language will be required for recruitment. Incentives will be provided for teachers to take up teaching jobs in rural areas. And there is one harmful practice going on in our country from many years, harmful practice, which is of excessive transfers, and this will be halted. And teachers will not be engaged any longer in work that is not directly related to teaching. For example, like election duties, etc. Teachers will be given more autonomy in choosing teaching method most effective for students, which now brings me to the point of catalyzing the quality academic research in all fields. The most important point, one of the in NEP mentioned, is that there will be an establishment of a national research foundation. The NRF will be governed by a rotating board of governors consisting of the very best researchers and innovators across different fields. The primary activities of this National Research Foundation will be to fund competitive, peer-reviewed, and grant proposals of all types and across all disciplines. Second will be that they will seed and grow and facilitate the research at academic institutions. This will also act as a mediator between researchers and relevant branches of government as well as industry. And this National Research Foundation will recognize outstanding research and progress. Akansha, please change the slide. This will, yeah, thank you. So this comes to, let me bring to this a very wonderful thing. There will be a single regulatory body transforming the regulatory system of our higher education sector. According to NEP, these four structures will be set up as four independent verticals within one umbrella institution, which is the Higher Education Commission of India. As you can all see, the first vertical of Higher Education Commission of India will be the National Higher Education Regulatory Council. It will function as the common single point regulator for higher education sector, including teacher education, but excluding medical and legal education. The second vertical of HECI will be the National Accreditation Council, NAC. Accreditation of institutions will be based primarily on basic norms, public self-disclosure, good governance, and outcomes. Then the third vertical that comes will be of HECI, will be the Higher Education Ground Council, HEGC, which will carry out funding and financing of higher education based on transparent criteria. The fourth vertical of Higher Education Commission of India will be the General Education Council, GEC, which will frame expected learning and outcomes for higher education programs. The professional councils which are operating in our India right now, like Veterinary Council of India, National Council for Teacher Education, Council of Architecture, etc., they all will act as into one body, which is Professional Standard Setting Bodies, also will be called as PSSBs. The separation of function would mean that each vertical within this Higher Education Commission of India would take on a new single role, which is relevant, meaningful, and important in the new regulatory scheme. Akansha, please go to the back slide, previous slide. So after all this, there is very much important thing that how these things going to be governed or leaded by our government or education ministry, and it has been proposed in National Education Policy that through a suitable system of graded accreditation and graded autonomy, and in a phased manner over a period of 15 years, all higher education institutions in India, will aim to become independent, self-governing institutions pursuing innovation and excellence. A board of governors will be set up appropriately, and it will see the appropriate graded accreditations that deem the institution. The board of governors of an institution, this board which will be set up of an institution, will be empowered to govern the institution free of any kind of external interference, and it will aim to become autonomous and have such an empowered board of governors by 2035. And last but not the least point, which is going to be thing, that the board of governors which will be constructed shall be responsible, and this board of governors will be accountable to all the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosure of all the relevant records. It will be responsible for meeting all the regulatory guidelines which would be mandated by the Higher Education Commission of India through the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, NHERC. That's all from my side. So I request Sejal to continue, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anshu. Quizzes, according to me, are not just a test of learning, but they add further learning. So on this note, we'll have a short quiz. Next slide, please. You have to do the same pattern. Either you can type your name in the chat box or raise your hand. Next slide, Akansha. And the first question is, which course has been abolished in the new education policy?
MPhil.
Kaushik Dubey. Wow, great.
MPhil.
Next question, please. Great. According to National Education Policy 2020, what is required to do PhD? Your options are, please type your name. Okay. Mayur, please answer.
4 years bachelor degree and PG.
Akansha, please display the right answer. Great. Great, Mayur. Next question, please. After how many years of study in a professional field will the diploma be awarded? Your options are great. Next question, please. What is the current enrollment ratio in higher education? And the options are 25%, 26%, 25.3%, 26.3%. Yes, Rajat, please answer.
26.3.
Great, great. Next slide, please. By which year the target is to reach 50% GER in higher education? Samriddhi, please unmute your mic and answer.
2035.
Akansha, display the right answer. Great. Next question, please. Okay. Now, I would like to invite Anshika Jaiswal to eDIS to talk about other key areas and how the implementation is to be done.
Okay, thank you so much, Sejal. Now I would, good afternoon, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Group Director Khalsa Sir, Vaibhav Lavlekar Sir, Chairman MBA Program, and IPER Group actually, for this wonderful opportunity that to speak on this very important topic, that is National Education Policy 2020. So as my colleagues have already discussed about the school education, what modifications are required over there, and about higher educations as well. So now I would be talking about the professional education and what suggestions experts have suggested regarding NEP and other key areas like encouraging students for cultural values, for professional and vocational education, and apart from that, how NEP be implemented. To begin with, presently, how professional education is being viewed is that professional education is being viewed as a very specific and a very super specialized system, and NEP 2020 wants to degenerate this system. It has recommended that professional and general education should evolve together into institution by 2030. This is by demarking which is presently existing in higher education. Another core area which is very relevant, particularly in the context of India, because here we have agriculture and it comprises of the maximum population. And despite the fact that we have 9% agricultural university, so here I would like to ask our audience, like, what do you think that since we have 9% agriculture universities, so can you guess what percent of people are actually get enrolled in these universities? Any way guess would be would do the thing, would be fine. Anyone? Okay, so I believe
2%. Around 2%.
Approximately 5%, Rahul says, and Akansha says approximately 2%. Okay, so let me tell you that the enrollment percentage is even less than 1. And this, we have 9% of the agriculture universities and we have only 1% of the enrollment, and this clearly shows that agriculture as a discipline is not taken very seriously in the academic profession by the students, and that is why we have less number of students. So this policy suggests that we should be concerned about building market-based research and providing innovative research in technical field. So agenda here is that it should be introduced about how this knowledge to be applied in the market, and for that NEP suggests that agricultural technological park should be established so that agriculture can be brought near to technology, and that way agriculture can be more productive. So now Also talking about the adult education and lifelong learning, as far as it's concerned and important, it is important as well. There is a strong correlation between GDP rate and per capita income. And this has also been underlined in the policy. The community at large need to realize the disadvantages that are linked to illiteracy. They need to understand what sort of disadvantages they have due to less literacy rate. And this policy also talks about the voluntary contribution that people have to come forward, and they would if education will help them in their day-to-day working. And another method is that we can increase adult education. For that, we need data. And if we have the data, the counselor would be able to identify and go back to the people who didn't enroll and accordingly motivate. And students will get themselves enrolled in adult education centers. Another important aspect is that infrastructure. It has been underlined that for infrastructure, we should be utilizing school complexes after school hours, and on weekends, we can also use the public library spaces. So infrastructure can be used for educating people who need to be educated and lucky enough to get chance to go to schools. Also, we need to work on own information resource technology that has made it easy. And for that curriculum, NCERT has been given responsibility. The curriculum shall have the following core areas. That is foundational literacy, numeracy, and another is critical life skills. Now the world is changing, and digital literacy should also be there so that they can use digital platforms, so that it is easy for them to access the resources that they are required to learn, and also about the vocational education that we are talking about. It will increase the finances of the people. If they'll come to learn new things, they will grow. Eventually, they will learn a certain new skill set, and that will ultimately help them to earn. And another core area that this policy talks about is that, which hasn't been not much taken care in the previous years, is legal education. So there are two problems in the legal education, and they are that the lawyers firstly are not globally competitive, and another one is that they are not in close link with the stakeholders. So the lawyers and judges that are posted are not even familiar with the local language of that area. So NEP 2020 says that they will be taught the language of the state where their institute is situated. Another area which is attended by NEP 2020 is healthcare. For healthcare, there are two suggestions which are given by NEP 2020. That healthcare system should be working in integrated manner. Like example, any person who would like to, who's currently studying allopathy can also go for homeopathy or naturopathy simultaneously. Currently, the demarking line that we have that is that doctor from Ayush does not have any lot of information about allopathy and vice versa. The another suggestion is that the preventive healthcare and community medicine, which need to be addressed. And in this present situation of COVID pandemic had made us realize that community medicine and preventive healthcare is of high importance. Coming to the promotion of Indian language and arts and culture, it is also one of the important things which all of us would be knowing, that we should get cultural education as well, and how to recenter culture education. That we are also should be aware of the core values of the Indian culture and how important the languages are that are being spoken all around the India. So culture should be correlated with the tourism that has given the slogan of Incredible India. Government has already identified 100 places across India which are of high importance, like whether we talk about the economic perspective or from the architecture perspective. These places should be linked with the school, and the students should visit these places, and with that they will be able to learn how rich our culture had been and how good architecture we had. What were the understanding of the people back then and in the past, and also they'll be able to communicate with the local people and would realize the value of the local language. UN has already declared that 197 Indian languages are endangered. So this is itself a wake-up call. And with these languages, cultures are also linked. And this policy aims at maintaining the diversity in India so that together we can come as unity in diversity. Another focus is Sanskrit language. It has also focused on studying all the classical languages and literature. We are not able to read because we do not know our classical languages that we used to have. And now we do not have all those resources so that we can study that. Now coming to the technological use and integration, it is another part of education which is very important, and it is industry oriented and is like about engineering, management, architect, etc. These are the core areas which keeps economy growing, and they work in very close connection with the industry. So the resources, the resources and the industrial linkages should be addressed profoundly in order to make better use of the technology. And technology should make education more understanding and more interesting and people friendly too. And at all levels, these new technologies should be introduced, like AI, machine learning, blockchain, smart boards, and other form of education, like hardware and software should be provided to students at all levels. And as we are witnessing this transitional phase, we now know the importance of technology and education as well. And similarly, education too shall not be restricted to the four walls of the classroom. Coming to the online and digital education, ensuring equitable use of technologies. So as we are already using various platforms like Swayam, Coursera. I wouldn't say that they are very successful, but they should be developed, and for the teachers as well, they too shall adopt the technological changes because that's what the demand of the future. And for that, National Technological Forum, NETF, will be set up. And in future, the Diksha platform will play a very important role. And people will get all the information that are required from that Diksha platform itself. I would ask Akansha to please change the slide. Yes. So to make it happen, the Central Advisory Board of that is CABE also be made responsible for developing, articulating, evaluating, revising the vision of education. And on continuous basis to bring back the focus of learning, the Ministry of Human Development is redesignated as the Ministry of Education. Please change the slide. Yes. So about financing affordable and quality education for all, because it has been realized that GDP in the education, which has been asked by the Kothari Commission, was 6%. But still, it is somewhere around 4.4% of the GDP when this policy was actually framed. And this has been assured by the government back then that they will try to increase it up to minimum 6%. But it has not happened till yet. We have seen the current budget. The uses of the allocated funds shall also be in effective manner, and this policy underlines it. The policy have also laid importance of commercialization of education, as it has suggested that the quality of public health should be improved, and the other cap prices should also be made in order to better the education in the current scenario in the private sector as well. So the policy has come at the right time, and the objective is very noble. But there lies the world of difference in laying down a policy on paper and following it into the spirit. So we'll be talking about the implementation part, and we'll start with the timeline for implementation. So the policy is meant to transform the education system by 2040. Some proposals will be implemented immediately, starting with the change in the name of the Ministry of Human Resource Development to Education. There are over 100 action plans from policy, and implementation will be done in a phased manner on the basis of the time, region, and type of institutes. Now, I would like to address how these reforms will be implemented. So the NEP 2020 only provides a broad direction. It is not mandatory to follow it. The education is a concurrent subject, and which is dealt by both center and state can make law on it. And the reform proposed can only be implemented collaboratively by center and state if they will plan accordingly, and will be followed by early joint review of progress against the target set. Now, I'll also discuss about the medium of instruction. Implementation in schools, the first challenge is that the medium of instruction that has to be in the mother tongue will affect the students whose parents are in transferable jobs. But nowhere in the policy it is written that the medium of instruction has to be mother tongue. The government has given option that it could be in the three languages, in the three medium, I mean. So, what we would suggest is that if English could be a medium with a vernacular touch, that is, and currently also that is what most educational institutes are doing, because the reality of the situation is that the teachers are not adapting the local language either. We don't even have books in local language. And what I mean is that science and maths, like translating them is a huge challenge in itself. But if it is English blended with one vernacular language, it would be more acceptable for everybody. And since we live in 21st century, English is most acceptable language across the globe. And if we impose vernacular language necessarily, how will we be able to prepare children to compete on the global platforms? About implementation in school education, education must not only develop the cognitive skills in the learners, both foundation skills, literacy, numeracy, and higher order cognitive skills like critical thinking and emotional skills like soft skills like empathy, grit, perseverance, leadership, and teamwork is the call of NEP. And such value-based learning, along with the significant curriculum and ideological changes, implementing such broad objectives will require training teachers rigorously. We need a lot of educators and official staff as well, and appropriately along with the preparing a pool of excellent motivating guide. We also need to work on all removing personal and professional barriers of working in remote and inaccessible locations, which is crucial for preparing this workforce and also for making NEP successful. Implementation of NEP in higher education. Flexibility is something that this policy has been added with multiple entry and exit. But still the question arises about the value of such certificates and diploma in Indian psyche. In Indian psyche, we closely associate that one with a degree is the right person to acquire the job. And hence, to implement new system, we first have to dismantle the archaic thinking that only with a degree can successfully secure a job. Like another challenge is that the introduction to coding and decoding. From 6th grade, they have mentioned that the policy for coding it should be implemented. And as we know that coding is mainly in the English language, and if we are introducing the vernacular language in the coding, I do not think I'll be able to gonna do it. And because coding nowadays is not just about hard coding, but more of a common sense. And in many schools, the teachers are not even well qualified to teach coding. So it is one of the major issues, but it can be ratified, and the teachers currently making all those children study, they can be given provided with some sort of training and some sort of courses so that they can upgrade themselves, which is quite possible. And apart from the 10% of the elite schools, students, other schools do not have even the proper computer labs. Sometimes students are sharing computer and they do not have system at their homes as well. And coding is something like that you have to keep thinking about it. And when you get the idea, you have to try it. And the first and the foremost action plan should be setting up of the computer labs in the school, and also collaboration with the various computer centers. And also they can set up the public computer centers where students can go, they can enroll themselves and they can study over there. And coming to the part of the vocational education, this is something new to the schools, right? This is one of the greatest initiatives that has implemented by this policy, that will be implemented by this policy actually. What they actually want to have, that they should be they want that there should be have like 10 begless days, and they will provide some sort of training and internship, which we think is very essential. I hope you guys to remember when we were kids, we used to have art and classes. Some people used to come to our school to showcase certain skills, and we used to learn them. But certainly we have not made career on that path. But this vocational course is not mandatory, but it is the choice of the people that they can opt for. Like these vocational course will also give opportunity to meet with so many people. Right now we have various jobs, and people look down at the various jobs. For example, I was hearing a lady, and she was talking about this, that my father was a railway driver, but since he was driver, I was not able to tell people that he is a railway driver. But because people look down to various jobs, that he's driver. And since children and students, they have not been exposed to practical world, many a times they look down to the world and they think that this job is small. And the students and the kids of those people suffer from low self-esteem. And this vocational course, and if students will go and learn over there, they will not look down to those small jobs. They will get some interest in that, and that will ultimately make children more grounded. And from being grounded, they will be able to learn a lot of skills, and from being grounded, they will be able to acquire a lot of knowledge from those people under whom they are going to do the internship. And also in the current scenario, we are not able to use our body in a full potential way, like we are sitting over here. And this particular vocational training thing will help other students to work on their own body. Like, for example, we are losing our own skill set. Since what earlier we used to do, we were able to hammer the walls and nails in the walls. But nowadays, these walls are so much better that we just have to drill these walls. And for that, we need professionals. Earlier, as a kid, we used to do it. But now things are changing, and students look down to these things. And with this vocational training, I believe it will create a huge change into the mindset of the students. And to sum up, the drafting committee of NEP 2020 has put much inference on comprehensive attempt to design a policy that considered to be one which is implemented by states and used by together. And the expert viewpoint says that the global practice that is needed in the education, in the field of experience and stakeholders' feedback is very essential, and the mission is very aspirational. But the implementation roadmap will decide if we'll truly foster an all-inclusive education that makes learners' job ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anshika. Now I would request Dr. Trupti Dave ma'am to speak few words.
Okay. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So very good afternoon. First of all, to respected group directors, sir, my faculty colleagues, and all my dear students. So the National Education Policy 2020, which has been a much awaited policy change. It's almost after 30 years since the last NEP was launched in year 1986, though there was a revision in 1992 also. But I think to start with, we all should be proud of the spirit with which this policy document was developed and launched during the pandemic time period. So I think that is something which should be applauded for the Indian government, for the people who are sitting there and envisioning. They have a vision for the development of the younger generation by making certain changes to the education arena, right? Now, there are several issues that were present in the education to a very large extent. If you know, according to the World Bank, countries like US, UK, who are ranked very high compared to India in terms of the level of education, these countries have been devoting more than 5% of GDP on education since several years. But as far as India is concerned, the recent economic survey 2020-21 has reported that the spending on education as a percentage of GDP was only 2.8% during 2014-19, though it increased slightly from 3 to 3.5% in the 2019-21 period. But this is something that was one of the major things that was envisioned in the NEP, and the NEP basically postulates that we should have around 6%, we should target around 6% of GDP, which should be allocated to the education sector. So that is one of the most important thing that has been devised in this particular policy. Now, the government has already started with the implementation. Just to let you all know what are the things that the government has already done. So currently, the first phase of implementation of National Education Policy has already begun, and it is supposed to be completed by April 2022. As the students have already discussed, so there are these three parts, majorly the school education, the higher education, and the professional education. So currently, the first phase basically is involving the school education reforms first, okay? And the budget also has, the recent budget that was announced in 2021 has already given force to the implementation of the NEP, where they have allocated more than around 93 crores for the 2021 year. Now there are certain things that we need to understand when we talk about NEP, because there are certain factors which are, as Anshika also just said, there are certain factors which are debated a lot. Okay, so I would like to talk about these issues to some extent, because we need to debate about these issues. So one of the bone of contention in NEP 2020 policy document was the medium of instruction. Now, one very interesting statistics that I would like to share with everyone is that according to UNESCO, there is an estimation of around 40% of the students worldwide. This is not Indian, this is 40% of the students worldwide are taught in language that they do not understand. Okay, now this is a very, very big number. Okay, and UNESCO research further suggests that the longer the students study in their mother tongue, the better they will be able to perform in schools. One of the major reasons that is concerned with the dropouts is also considered to be the mother tongue. Okay, that the students do not understand the language in which they are being taught. So as a matter of fact, if you know, many countries like Russia, Japan, Germany, they already are offering education, at least at the elementary level, the primary education level. They are already using their own local languages, and that helps preserving the local language, the culture, the tradition of the country. And that is the reason why probably in the NEP there is this provision. They have envisioned this, that we will have the medium of instruction. They have suggested that there is going to be the medium of instruction till 5th grade, preferably till 8th grade, to be in the mother tongue. Now, this is something which is not going to be forced on the states. The states also have a say. So though the government has said that this policy will be followed wherever possible in the first phase, there are around more than 1,000 Kendriya Vidyalaya central government schools across the country which have been already handed the responsibility to implement this language formula. So now this experiment is already being conducted by the government of India, and we'll see what are the results, and these will act as a role model for other schools. Therefore, we will be able to see in some coming time period whether this thing is workable or not. But at elementary school level, yes, this can be better, and there would be probably less dropout rates. There are certain challenges, definitely, when we talk about lesser spoken languages. For example, in India, it is said that in every 20 miles the language changes. Okay, so there are languages like Maithili or Bodo. It is very difficult to find teachers, or whether we will be able to get translators for these particular languages or not. So these are certain challenges that the government might face in the coming time period. Another important thing, as Anshika said very rightly, that in India we do not have the right skill set. We can, for example, the day-to-day tasks that we have, the plumbers and the other such people who do the vocational kind of job, we do not have proper training for these particular things. So another important aspect of NEP, which I think is very good for increasing the skill set at the lower levels, is providing vocational education and skilling. So at the school level itself, a child would be exposed to new skills, both coding as well as local crafts. This is what the NEP has said. So NEP 2020 states that from the 6th grade itself, each child will be taught skills like coding, and they will be mandated to visit local businesses and craftsmen to learn new skills. So you would be glad to know that as part of the implementation program, already around 1 million government schools have already taken the lead in preparing a year-long structured curriculum on vocational education program. And for technology-based subjects like coding, there are partners that are with the government, working with the government in order to impart the coding skills. This is how probably we'll be able to make the Indian students much more at par with the government, with the other country students, right? Also, I would like to mention that in this budget, especially now this is this year's budget, there has been an allocation around 15,000 schools have become a role model schools. They have been designated as exemplar schools, which will then be mentoring the other schools. So the budget also mentioned 100 new scenic schools in partnership with NGOs and states and private schools, and also for having most of the rural areas and including them into the education arena. There are Eklavya mission schools for SC/ST students for the tribal areas that the budget has basically conceived of. The CBSE board exam, for example, the reforms are also being introduced. They'll be introduced in a phased manner from 2022 to 23. So this is also something that was mentioned in the budget recently. Something that was mentioned also was the teacher training. So we are also worried many a times in news. We listen to lack of skills of the teachers also, which might be improved through proper teacher training. So this is a very good news that I would like to share with all of you. So despite the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 30 lakh elementary school teachers have already been trained digitally. And in the 2021-22 time period, the government has also thought of further training 56 lakh more school teachers. So I think this is how we could go about improving the elementary school level teaching. And there are many more such initiatives that are being worked on, which would help in achieving the holistic education goal. And the goal is very very high that has been set by the NEP. We are thinking of 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030. So definitely there are going to be challenges. There are a lot of challenges because of the fact the size of the Indian population. If you are aware of the statistics, the government data shows that there are more than 200 million students who are enrolled in schools and around more than 1.5 million schools that exist in India. So you can understand the magnitude of the problem that will be faced. We all can conceive the magnitude of this problem, how difficult it is going to be to implement this throughout the country. And I think it is a very futuristic kind of policy that the government has come up with, and very, very important aspects that the government has taken care of. And the coming time period will tell us what are going to be the result of this. But I personally feel that it is a revolutionary national education policy, and I look forward to many such reforms, not only in school education but higher education. Being a teacher myself, I feel that there should be some positive change in the education arena. So that is all from my side. Thank you all for the patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Although
so
not
much,
in the
ma'am.
plan, but we cannot conclude this session without hearing Khalsa sir's views. Sir, I would request, please come on the e-dais and speak few words on national education policy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think that today's session is an eye-opener for me also. And when you are a director of an institution, there is one disadvantage which is attached to that. And the disadvantage is that you are always called at the end of every program to speak. So there is not much left to speak at the end of the program. But it's my duty to give a different dimension and thought process to this whole concept. So when Dr. Tripti ma'am and Dr. Ashish Ghosh sir approached me to organize this seminar on such a topical issue, I said that yes, it's very important that our students should know the direction in which our education is going to grow in coming times. So on behalf of you all students and my other faculty colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Tripti Dave and Dr. Ashish Ghosh to organize such a wonderful seminar. And it has really benefited us. The way you all students have presented in different piecemeals, the various areas of national education policy, I have not heard this kind of apt discussion or presentation of the facts of national education policy, even in media when I listen to these debates on national education policy. So hats off to my students. I never thought that you can present in such a organized manner. The crystal way you showcase this national education policy. I think if we upload this national education policy on YouTube, I think there will be more views on this, because it was a very simplistic manner in which you have put all the facts in front of all of us. So today morning when Dr. Vaibhav Lavlekar came to me and ordered me that I have to speak on this topic, so I also did my little homework in a very short span of time, because as I have to give a different thinking on this national education policy. So let me ask you to recollect whatever you have heard in last 1 hour. You will notice one thing, that whatever has been talked about in this education policy, there was nothing new in this. Everything is happening in our country, whether it is vocational training, whether it is vernacular language, whether it is skill set, whether it is higher education commissions, whether it is teachers training, whether it is the foreign nationals coming to India and study and we going there and study. If you see, all these things were happening. There is nothing new. There is one thing which has brought this new educational policy into limelight, and that this is the subject which you all study, and that is called management. All these things were happening in different islands. They were not properly managed. They were not synchronized. So this national education policy has done one wonderful thing, that they have managed with, they have made up a plan for the management of all these activities to a logical objective. That's the core of this national education policy. आप इसको ऐसे समझिए कि सारी चीजें हो रही थी, but different islands में हो रही थी, and there was no connect between those islands. So this national education policy has introduced management into these islands, and now you see that it comes into a holistic picture, which is beneficial for the growth of this nation. So I think this is the basic reason why this national education policy should be appreciated, because we have introduced management to this new set of learning. Secondly, why my students should have a e-seminar on implementation of national education policy, how they are concerned, how they are bothered, how a scheme of 5+3+3+4 or any other scheme would have, affected your education, how it has affected your future. I think this is the point where I would like to bring into your thought process a new dimension. And the dimension is that there are two sets of students in our MBA program. One who are going to do certain entrepreneurship activities in coming times, and the another set who will be going to do jobs in the corporate sector. So this education policy is giving you an idea where the opportunities are lying, whether you want to start up your own entrepreneur skill set into education, business into education, or you would like to see the companies which will grow in coming times, which will offer the greater placement opportunities to all of you. This is the advantage of learning the placement education policy being a management student. So have a different thought process. आपको ये देखना है कि मेरे लिए बिजनेस करने की, धंधा करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी कहां पर है, वो ये स्किल सेट आपको बताएगा, ये नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आपको बताएगा, whether it is at primary level, higher education or secondary or whatever. or you have to see what type of companies are going to get benefit of this national education policy. So target those companies, because you will have a wonderful working environment there in coming times because of this new educational policy. So दो वजहें थी जिसकी वजह से ये सेमिनार आपको अटेंड करना था. एक तो एप्रिसिएशन कि आप जिस सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ते हैं उस सब्जेक्ट का इंट्रोडक्शन इस नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में हो गया, और दूसरा ये कि ये मैं समझ क्यों रहा हूं, बिकॉज मैं सी मैनेजमेंट स्टूडेंट्स आर वेरी सेल्फिश एंड दे शुड बी. उनको अपना फायदा सबसे पहले देखना चाहिए. ठीक है, तो आपने ये भी देखना था कि इस नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी से मैं कौन से बिजनेसेस को कर सकता हूं या कौन से चलते हुए बिजनेसेस को ज्वाइन कर सकता हूं. तो जब आप इस पॉलिसी को देखेंगे तो यू विल बी एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई कि मुझे कहां पर अपने आप को टारगेट को हिट करना है और किस तरीके से आगे बढ़ना है. एंड दिस इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ आवर इंस्टीट्यूशन दैट वी ऑलवेज लर्न इन एक्शन. So this is also one of the kind of learning in action, and the action is always speaks in itself. I would like to thank all my lovely students. मुझे देखकर बहुत अच्छा भी लगा when attendance went to 220 on such a topical issue. अच्छा लगा because you are taking active interest into that. और मैं खुश भी हूं कि मेरे आते आते तक लगभग 150 लोग अभी भी हैं. तो मेरा नंबर जब आया तो कम से कम कुछ लोग सुनने वाले बैठे थे. और I would like to also thank our chairman MBA program, Dr. Harsh, Dr. Vaibhav Lavlekar, that इस तरीके से इतने कम नोटिस पर इस तरीके की चीजों को ऑर्गेनाइज कर लेना, it requires certain spirit, and that spirit is the power, and that's the unique trait of your chairman. So thank you Dr. Lavlekar and all my faculty colleagues. हमको बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला है भाई, कुछ नई चीजें हमने देखी और समझी हैं, और जिस तरीके से आपने बताया है, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to express profound gratitude to Board of Directors, Chaitanya Shiksha Samiti, parent body of IPER, Dr. Amarjit Singh Khalsa, sir, Group Director, IPER Group of Institution, Dr. Vaibhav, sir, Chairman, MBA Program, Dr. Harsh Sharma, IPER's Career Center Chairman, Dr. Mahesh Soni, sir, IPER UG Mentor, and all the faculty members, and also extend a special thanks to speakers. Last but not the least, thank you audience for being amazing.